It has been said that the basic drive of the Adorians was a lust for power, a thought which should be elucidated and perhaps slightly modified. Their warrings, their strifes, their internecine intrigues and connivings were inevitable because of the tremendousness and capability and the limitations of their minds. Not enough could occur upon any one planet to keep such minds as theirs even partially occupied, and unlike the Arisians, they could not satiate themselves in a static, philosophical study of the infinite possibilities of the cosmic all. They had to be doing something, or better yet, making other and lesser beings do things to make the physical universe conform to their idea of what a universe should be. Their first care was to set up the various echelons of control. The second echelon, immediately below the masters, was of course the most important, and after a survey of both galaxies, they decided to give this high honor to the Plurans. Plur, as is now well known, was a planet of a sun so variable that all Pluran life had to undergo radical cyclical changes in physical form in order to live through the tremendous climatic charges involved in its every year. Physical form, however, meant nothing to the Adorians, since no other planet even remotely like theirs existed in this, our normal plenum. Physiques like theirs would be impossible, and the Pluran mentality left very little to be desired. In the third echelon there were many different races, among which the frigid-blooded, poison-breathing Ike were perhaps the most efficient said most callous, and in the fourth, there were millions upon millions of entities representing thousands upon thousands of widely variant races. Thus, at the pinpoint in history represented by the time of Virgil Sams and Roderick Kinnison, and Adorians were busy, and if such a word can be used, happy. Garlane of Edor, second in authority only to the All-Highest, his ultimate supremacy himself, paid little attention to any one planet or to any one race. Even such a mind as his, when directing the affairs of 20 million and then 60 million and then 100 million worlds, can do so only in broad and not in fine. And thus the reports which were now flooding into Garlane in a constantly increasing stream concerned classes and groups of worlds, and solar systems, and galactic regions. A planet might perhaps be mentioned as representative of a class, but no individual entity lower than a Pluran was named or discussed. Garlane analyzed those tremendous reports, collated, digested, compared, and reconciled them, determined trends and tendencies and most probable resultants. Garlane issued orders, the carrying out of which would make an entire galactic region fit more and ever more exactly into the great plan. But, as has been pointed out, there was one flaw inherent in the Bosconian system. Underlings, then as now, were prone to gloss over their own mistakes, to cover up their own incompetences. Thus, since he had no reason to inquire specifically, Garlane did not know that anything whatever had gone amiss on Sol 3, the pestiferous planet which had formerly caused him more trouble than all the rest of his worlds combined. After the fact, it is easy to say that he should have continued his personal supervision of Earth, but can that view be defended? Egotistical, self-confident, arrogant, Garlane knew that he had finally whipped Tellus into line. It was the same now as any other planet of its class, and even had he thought it worthwhile to make such a glaring exception, would not the fused elders of Arisia have intervened? Be those things as they may, Garlane did not know that the newborn Galactic Patrol had been successful in defending Triplanetary's Hill against the Black Fleet, nor did the Pluran assistant director in charge, nor did any member of that dreadful group of Ike which was even then calling itself the Council of Boscan. The highest-ranking Bosconian who knew of the fiasco, calmly confident of his own ability, had not considered this minor reverse of sufficient importance to report to his immediate superior. He had already taken steps to correct the condition. In fact, as matters now stood, the thing was more fortunate than otherwise, in that it would lull the patrol into believing themselves in a position of superiority, a belief which would, at election time, prove fatal. This being, human to the limit of classification, except for a faint but unmistakable blue coloration, had been closeted with Senator Morgan for a matter of 2 hours. In the matters covered, Your reports have been complete and conclusive, the visitor said finally, but you have not reported on the lens. Purposely, we are investigating it, but any report based upon our present knowledge would be partial and inconclusive. I see. Commendable enough, usually. News of this phenomenon has, however, gone farther and higher than you think, and I have been ordered to take cognizance of it, to decide whether or not to handle it myself. I am thoroughly capable of. I will decide that, not you. Morgan subsided. A partial report is therefore in order. Go ahead. According to the procedure submitted and approved, a Lensman was taken alive. Since the lens has telepathic properties, and hence is presumably operative at great distances, the operation was carried out in the shortest possible time. The lens, immediately upon removal from the patrolman's arm, ceased to radiate and the operative who held the thing died. It was then applied by force to 4 other men workers. These, of no importance. All 4 died, thus obviating all possibility of coincidence. An attempt was made to analyze a fragment of the active material, without success. It seemed to be completely inert. Neither was it affected by electrical discharges or by subatomic bombardment, nor by any temperatures available. Meanwhile, the man was of course being questioned, under truth drug and beams. His mind denied any knowledge of the nature of the lens, a thing which I am rather inclined to believe. His mind adhered to the belief that he obtained the lens upon the planet Arigia. I am offering for your consideration my opinion that the high-ranking officers of the patrol are using hypnotism to conceal the real source of the lens. Your opinion is accepted for consideration. The man died during examination. 2 minutes after his death, his lens disappeared. Disappeared? What do you mean? Flew away? Vanished? Was stolen? Disintegrated? Or what? No, more like evaporation or sublimation, except that there was no gradual diminution in volume, and there was no detectable residue, either solid, liquid, or gaseous. The platinum alloy bracelet remained intact. And then, the patrol attacked in force and our expedition was destroyed. You are sure of these observational facts? I have the detailed records. Would you like to see them? Send them to my office. I hereby relieve you of all responsibility in the matter of the lens. In fact, even I may decide to refer it to a higher echelon. Have you any other material, not necessarily facts, which may have bearing? None, Morgan replied, and it was just as well for Virgilia Sam's continued well-being that the senator did not think it worthwhile to mention the traceless disappearance of his number 1 secretary and a few members of a certain unsavory gang. To his way of thinking, the lens was not involved, except perhaps very incidentally. Herkimer, in spite of advice and orders, had probably got rough with the girl, and Sam's mob had rubbed him out. Served him right. I have no criticism of any phase of your work. You are doing a particularly nice job on Thionite. You are of course observing all specified precautions as to key personnel? Certainly. Thorough testing and unremitting watchfulness. Our Mr. Isaacson is about to promote a man who has proved very capable. Would you like to observe the proceedings? No, I have no time for minor matters. Your results have been satisfactory. Keep them that way. Goodbye. The visitor strode out. Morgan reached for a switch, then drew his hand back. No, he would like to sit in on the forthcoming interview, but he did not have the time. He had tested Olmsted repeatedly and personally. He knew what the man was. It was Isaacson's department. Let Isaacson handle it. He himself must work full-time at the job which only he could handle. The nationalists must and would win this forthcoming election. And in the office of the president of Interstellar Spaceways, Isaacson got up and shook hands with George Olmsted. I called you in for 2 reasons. First, in reply to your message that you were ready for a bigger job. What makes you think that any such are available? Do I need to answer that? Perhaps not. No, the magnate smiled quietly. Morgan was right. This man could not be accused of being dumb. There is such a job. You are ready for it. And you have your successor trained in the work of harvesting. Second, why did you cut down, instead of increasing as ordered, the weight of broadleaf per trip? This, Olmsted, is really serious. I explained why. It would have been more serious the other way. Didn't you believe I knew what I was talking about? Your reasoning may have been distorted and transmittal. I want it straight from you. Very well. It isn't smart to be greedy. There's a point at which something that has been merely a nuisance becomes a thing that has to be wiped out. Since I didn't want to be in that ferry when the patrol blows it out of the ether, I cut down the take, and I advise you to keep it down. What you're getting now is a lot more than you ever got before, and a hell of a lot more than none at all. Think it over. I see. Upon what basis did you arrive at the figure you established? Pure guesswork, nothing else. I guess that about 300% of the previous average per month ought to satisfy anybody who wasn't too greedy to have good sense, and that more than that would ring a loud, clear bell right where we don't want any noise made. So I cut it down to 3, and advised Ferdy either to keep it at 3 or quit while he was still all in one piece. You exceeded your authority, and were insubordinate, but it wouldn't surprise me if you were right. You are certainly right in principle, and the poundage can be determined by statistical and psychological analysis, but in the meantime, there is tremendous pressure for increased production. Know it. Pressure be damned. My dear cousin Virgil is, as you already know, a crackpot. He is visionary, idealistic, full of sweet and beautiful concepts of what the universe would be like if there weren't so many people like you and me in it. But don't ever make the mistake of writing him off as anybody's fool. And you know, probably better than I do, what Rod Kinnison is like. If I were you, I'd tell whoever is doing the screaming to shut their damn mouths before they get their teeth kicked down their throats. I'm very much inclined to take your advice. And now as to this proposed promotion, you are of course familiar in a general way with our operation at Northport. I could scarcely help knowing something about the biggest uranium works on Earth. However, I am not well enough qualified in detail to make a good technical executive, nor is it necessary. Our thought is to make you a key man in a new and increasingly important branch of the business, known as Department Q. It is concerned neither with production nor with uranium. Q as in quiet, eh? I'm listening with both ears. What duties would be connected with this? Position? What would I really do? Two pairs of hard eyes locked and held, staring yieldlessly into each other's depths. You would not be unduly surprised to learn that substances other than uranium occasionally reach Northport. Not too surprised, no, Olmsted replied dryly. What would I do with it? We need not go into that here or now. I offer you the position. I accept it. Very well. I will take you to Northport, and we will continue our talk en route. And in a spy ray-proof, soundproof compartment of a Spaceway's own Stratoliner they did so. Just for my information, Mr. Isaacson, how many predecessors have I had on this particular job, and what happened to them? The patrol get them? 2. No, we have not been able to find any evidence that the Sam's crowd has any suspicion of us. Both were too small for the job. Neither could handle personnel. One got funny ideas. The other couldn't stand the strain. If you don't get funny ideas and don't crack up, you will make out in a big, and I mean really big way. If I do either, I'll be more than somewhat surprised. Olmsted's features set themselves into a mirthless, uncompromising, somehow bitter grin. So will I, Isaacson agreed. He knew what this man was, and just how case-hardened he was. He knew that he had fought Morgan himself to a scoreless tie after twisting Herkimer, and he was no soft touch into a pretzel in nothing flat. At the thought of the secretary, so recently and so mysteriously vanished, the magnate's mind left for a moment the matter in hand. What was at the bottom of that affair, the lens or the woman? Or both, if he were in Morgan's shoes. But he wasn't. He had enough grief of his own, without worrying about any of Morgan's stinkeroos. He studied Olmsted's inscrutable, subtly sneering smile, and knew that he had made a wise decision. I gather that I am going to be one of the main links in the primary chain of deliveries. What's the technique, and how do I cover up? Technique first, you go fishing. You are an expert at that, I believe. You might say so. I won't have to do any faking there. Some weekend soon, and every week and later on, we hope, you will indulge in your favorite sport at some lake or other. You will take the customary solid and liquid refreshments along in a lunchbox. When you have finished eating, you will toss the lunchbox overboard. That all? That's all. The lunchbox, then, will be slightly special, more or less, although it will look ordinary enough. Now as to the cover-up. How would Director of Research sound? I don't know. Depends on what the researchers are doing. Before I became an engineer, I was a pure scientist of sorts. But that was quite a while ago, and I was never a specialist. That is one reason why I think you will do. We have plenty of specialists too. Many, I often think. They dash off in all directions, without rhyme or reason. What we want is a man with enough scientific training to know in general what is going on, but what he will need mostly is hard common sense, and enough ability mental force. You might call it to hold the specialists down to earth, and make them pull together. If you can do it, and if I didn't think you could, I wouldn't be talking to you. The whole force will know that you are earning your pay, just as we could not hide the fact that your two predecessors weren't. Put that way, it sounds good. I wouldn't wonder if I could handle it. The conversation went on, but the rest of it is of little importance here. The plane landed. Isaacson introduced the new director of research to Works Manager Rand, who in turn introduced him to a few of his scientists and to the svelte and spectacular redhead, who was to be his private secretary. It was clear from the first that the research department was not going to be an easy one to manage. The top men were defiant, the middle ranks were sullen, the smaller fry were apprehensive as well as sullen. The secretary flaunted chips on both shapely shoulders. Men and women alike expected the application of the old wheeze, a new broom sweeps clean, for the third time in scarcely twice that many months, and they were defying him to do his worst. Wherefore they were very much surprised when the new boss did nothing whatever for 2 solid weeks except read reports and get acquainted with his department. How do I like your new boss, May? Another secretary asked during a break. Oh, not too bad, I guess. May's tone was full of reservations. He's quiet, sort of reserved, no passes or anything like that. It'd be funny if I finally got a boss that had something on the ball, wouldn't it? But you know what, Molly? The redhead giggled suddenly. I had a camera fiend first, you know, with 1 million credits worth of stereo cams and such stuff. And then a golf nut. I wonder what this Dr. Olmsted does with his spare cash. You'll find out, dearie. No doubt. Molly's tone gave the words a meaning slightly different from the semantic one of their arrangement. I intend to. Molly, I fully intend to. May's meaning, too, was not expressed exactly by the sequence of words used. It must be tough, a boss's life, having to sit at a desk or be in conference 6 or 7 hours a day when he isn't playing around somewhere for a measly 1,000 credits or so a month. How do they get that way? You said it, May. You really said it. But we'll get ours, huh? Time went on. George Olmsted studied reports, and more reports. He read one, and Ray read it, frowning. He compared it minutely with another, then sent red-headed May to hunt up one which had been turned in a couple of weeks before. He took them home that evening, and in the morning, he punched 3 buttons. 3 stiffly polite young men obeyed his summons. Good morning, Dr. Olmsted. Morning, boys. I'm not up on the fundamental theory of any one of these 3 reports, but if you combine this, and this, and this, indicating heavily penciled sections of the 3 documents, would you, or would you not, be able to work out a process that would do away with about 3/4 of the final purification and separation processes? They did not know. It had not been the business of any one of them, or of all them collectively, to find out. I'm making it your business as of now. Drop whatever you're doing. Put your heads together and find out. Theory first, then a small-scale laboratory experiment. Then come back here on the double. Yes, sir. And in a few days, they were back. Does it work? In theory it should, sir. And on a laboratory scale it does. The 3 young men were, if possible, even stiffer than before. It was not the first time, nor would it be the last, that a director of research would seize credit for work which he was not capable of doing. Good. Miss Reed, get me Rand Olmsted. 3 of my boys have just hatched out something that may be worth quite a few million credits a year to us. Me? Hell, no. Talk to them. I can't understand any one of the 3 parts of it. to say nothing of inventing it. I want you to give them a Class AA priority on the pilot plant, as of right now. If they can develop it, and I'm betting they can, I'm going to put their pictures in the Northport News, and give them a couple of thousand credits apiece, and a couple of weeks vacation to spend it in. Yeah, I'll send them in. He turned to the flabbergasted three. Take your dope into Rand now. Show him what you've got. Then tear into that pilot plant. And a little later Ollie and May again met in the powder room. So your new boss is a fisherman. Molly snickered. And they say he paid over 200 credits for a reel. You were right, May. A boss's life must be mighty hard to take. And he sits around more and does less, they say, than any other exec in the plant. Who says so? The dirty, sneaking liars. The redhead blazed, completely unaware that she had reversed her former position. And even if it was so, which it isn't, he can do more work sitting perfectly still than any other boss in the whole works can do tearing around at 40 parsecs a minute. So there. George Olmsted was earning his salary. His position was fully consolidated when, a few days later, a tremor of excitement ran through the research department. Heads up, everybody, Mr. Isaacson himself is coming here. What for, I wonder? You don't suppose he's going to take the old man away from us already, do you? He came. He went through, for the first time, the entire department. He observed minutely, and he understood what he saw. Olmsted led the big boss into his private office and flipped the switch which supposedly rendered that sanctum-proof against any and all forms of spying, eavesdropping, intrusion, and communication. It did not, however, close the deeper, subtler channels which the Lensmen used. Good work, George. So damned good that I'm going to have to take you out of Department Q entirely and make you works manager of our new plant on Vigia. Have you got a man you can break in to take your place here? Including Department Q? No, although Olmsted did not show it. He was disappointed at hearing the word Vigia. He had been aiming much higher than that at the secret planet of the Bosconian armed forces. No less, but there might still be enough time to win a transfer there. Excluding. I've got another good man here now for that. Jones. Not heavy enough, though, for Vigia. In that case, yes. Dr. Whitworth, one of the boys who worked out the new process. It'll take a little time, though. 3 weeks minimum. 3 weeks it is. Today's Friday. You've got things in shape, haven't you? So that you can take the weekend off? I was figuring on it. I'm not going where I thought I was, I imagine. Probably not. Lake Chesuncook, on Route 273. Rough country, and the hotel is something less than fourth rate, but the fishing can't be beat. I'm glad of that. When I fish, I like to catch something. It would smell if you didn't. They stock lunchboxes in the cafeteria, you know. Have your girl get you one, full of sandwiches and stuff. Start early this afternoon, as soon as you can after I leave. Be sure and see Jones, with your lunchbox, before you leave. Goodbye, Miss Reed. Please send Whitworth in. Then skip down to the cafeteria and get me a lunchbox, sandwiches, and a thermos of coffee. Provender suitable for a wet and hungry fisherman. Yes, sir. There were no chips now. The redhead's boss was the top ace of the whole plant. Hi, Ned. Take the throne. Olmsted waved his hand at the now vacant chair behind the big desk. Hold it down till I get back. Monday, May. Going fishing, huh? Gone was all trace of stiffness, of reserve, of unfriendliness. You big, lucky stiff. Well, my brilliant young squirt. Maybe you'll get old and fat enough to go fishing yourself someday. Who knows? Bye. Lunchbox in hand and encumbered with tackle, Olmsted walked blithely along the corridor to the office of Assistant Works Manager Jones. While he had not known just what to expect, he was not surprised to see a lunchbox, exactly like his own, upon the side table. He placed his box beside it. Hi, Olmsted. By no slightest flicker of expression did either Lensman step out of character. Shoving off early? Yeah. Dropped by to let the head office know. I won't be until Monday. Oak. So am I. But more speed for me. Chemquisabamtikok Lake. Do you pronounce that or sneeze it? But have fun, my boy. I'm combining business with pleasure, though breaking in Whitworth on my job. That fair play thing is going to break in about an hour, and it'll scare the pants off of him. But it'll keep until Monday anyway, and if he handles it right, he's just about in." Jones grinned. "A bit brutal perhaps, but a sure way to find out. Bye. So long." Olmsted strolled out, nonchalantly picking up the wrong lunchbox on the way, and left the building. He ordered his Dillingham, and tossed the lunchbox aboard as carelessly as though it did not contain an unknown number of millions of credits worth of clear quill, uncut thionite. "I hope you have a nice weekend, sir," the yardman said, as he helped stow baggage and tackle. "Thanks, Otto. I'll bring you a couple of fish Monday, if I catch that many," and it should be said in passing that he brought them. Lensmen keep their promises, under whatever circumstances or however lightly given. It being mid-afternoon of Friday, the traffic was already heavy. Northport was not a metropolis, of course, but on the other hand, it did not have metropolitan, multi-tiered, one-way non-intersecting streets. But Olmsted was in no hurry. He inched his spectacular mount. It was a violently iridescent chrome green in color, with highly polished chromium gingerbread wherever there was any excuse for gingerbread to be across the city and into the northbound side of the superhighway. Even then, he did not hurry. He wanted to hit the inspection station at the edge of the preserve at dusk. 90 miles an hour would do it. He worked his way into the 90-mile lane and became motionless relative to the other vehicles on the strip. It was a peculiar sensation. It seemed as though the cars themselves were stationary, with the pavement flowing backward beneath them. There was no passing, no weaving, no cutting in and out. Only occasionally would the formation be broken, as a car would shift almost imperceptibly to one side or the other, speeding up or slowing down to match the assigned speed of the neighboring way. The afternoon was bright and clear, neither too hot nor too cold. Olmsted enjoyed his drive thoroughly, and arrived at the turnoff right on schedule. Leaving the wide, smooth way, he slowed down abruptly. Even a Dillingham super sporter could not make speed on the narrow, rough, and hilly road to Chesuncook Lake. At dusk, he reached the post. Instead of stopping on the pavement, he pulled off the road, got out, stretched hugely, and took a few drum major steps to take the kinks out of his legs. "A lot of road, eh?" the smartly uniformed trooper remarked. "No guns?" "No guns." Olmsted opened up for inspection. "From Northport. Funny, isn't it? How hard it is to stop, even when you aren't in any particular hurry. Guess. I'll eat now. Join me in a sandwich and some hot coffee or a cold lemon sour or cherry soda." "I've got my own supper, thanks. I was just going to eat." "But did you say a cold lemon sour?" "Uh-huh. Ice cold. 0 degrees centigrade." "I will join you, in that case." "Thanks." Olmsted opened a frost-lined compartment, took out 2 half-liter bottles, placed them in his open lunchbox invitingly on the low stone wall. Quite a zipper you got there, mister." The trooper gazed admiringly at the luxurious, two-wheeled monster, listened appreciatively to its almost inaudible hum. "I've heard about those new supers, but that is the first one I ever saw." "Nice. All the comforts of home, eh?" "Just about. Sure you won't help me clean up on those sandwiches before they get stale?" Seated on the wall, the two men ate and talked. If that trooper had known what was in the box beside his leg, he probably would have fallen over backward. But how was he even to suspect? There was nothing crass or rough or coarse about any of the work of any of Boscone's high-level operators. Olmsted drove onto the lake and took up his reservation at the ramshackle hotel. He slept, and bright and early the next morning he was up and fishing, and this part of the performance he really enjoyed. He knew his stuff, and the fish were there, big, wary, and game. He loved it. At noon, he ate, and quite openly and brazenly consigned the empty box to the watery deep. Even if he had not had so many fish to carry, B was not the type to lug a cheap lunchbox back to town. He fished joyously all afternoon, without getting quite the limit, and as the sun grazed the horizon, he started his putt-putt and skimmed back to the dock. The thing hadn't sent out any radiation yet, Northrop informed him tensely, but it certainly would. And when it did, they'd be ready. There were lensmen and patrolmen all over the place, thicker than hair on a dog. And George Olmsted, sighing, Warily and yet blissfully anticipatory of one more day of enthralling sport, gathered up his equipment and his fish and strolled toward the hotel.